Long ago, the legends foretold of a man named TJ who would rise to the top of the YouTube shit heap by making smug atheists feel superior to Christians. And then, when that well ran dry, he would continue his reign by making smug anti-SJWs feel superior to SJWs. And then, when that well ran dry, he would begin to languish, unsure of what to do, uncertain who to attack. Then, like a flash of lightning, the answer hit him. Beyonce.
My name is Oswald Cobblepot.
More like Oswald Cobblenot.
Oh! So what's wrong with Beyonce? Well, let's start with what's right about Beyonce. She looked good. Oh yeah, I'd eat pasta salad out of that ass, and I don't even like pasta salad. And she sings well. Not amazingly, not phenomenally, just well. I think guitar legend Carlos Santana got it right when he said, Beyonce is a model, Adele is a singer. Beyonce's voice isn't bad, but only an idiot would put her in the company of like a Whitney Houston or an Aretha Franklin. She's just not on that level. The truth about Beyonce is that she's a beautiful woman with a good but not great voice. And that combination is a dime a dozen, right? Right. So why then is this woman lavished with such huge amounts of hyperbolic praise like this?
Just her name alone just defines greatness, right? You know, like just her like that push that every woman wants to be that driven, like, you know.
And she is not fake at all. She's 100% genuine. She's a good person, and I love working with her so much because we just pee our pants laughing.
I mean, she's smart, she's creative, she's a great mother, she loves her family. I mean, she's just a low-key lady. So we have a lot in common in that way.
But she just is an amazing person and singer and talented.
Everything.
And
it's kind of nauseating. It's kind of like, she's so perfect that it's kind of hard to take.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
You have no business in being humble. You are the most talented performer out there, but you are, in fact, the most humble person I've ever worked with. You are respectful, courteous, hardworking. It was a great, great privilege, and I'll never, ever forget that. And if I never do anything else in this business, that's fine with me, because having worked with you, that's it.
Okay. Listening to all that, you would think this woman is the new Messiah. She's perfect in every way. Her talent is immeasurable. Her genius is unquestionable. President Barack Obama called her the perfect role model for his girls. And she's such a great singer, and she's such a hard worker, and she's such a good mother, and she's such a nice person, and she's so funny. Once you've met Beyonce, you might as well slit your fucking wrists, because it's all downhill after that, folks. She's a fucking goddess. A fucking perfect fucking goddess. But so humble about it all, right? Even though she's literally a billion, trillion, zillion times better than any other human being that has ever walked the face of the earth, she's so fucking humble about it. Wow. All right, so let's focus this video on 3 Count them, 1, 2, 3. Key areas of praise and worship that exist around Beyonce. And let's see if we can demystify this overrated bitch and take her down a peg or 2 or 3 or 10. Let's see if we can turn the goddess into a mortal like the rest of us. The 3 key areas we're going to focus on are 1, Beyonce's talent. 2, Beyonce's perfection. And 3, Beyonce's humility. Beyonce's talent! Now, I might be a total negative prick from hell, but I consider myself fair. If I were to come out before you guys and say, Beyonce's a fucking talentless bitch, her singing sounds like a cat being castrated with a pair of vintage garden shears by, I don't know, some kind of weirdo wearing lederhosen and a butt plug. If I were to say that, it might be fun, but it wouldn't be true. Let's give Beyonce credit where credit's due and really break this shit down. So what sort of talents does someone in Beyonce's position, you know, the pop star position, really need? Singer, songwriter, musician, dancer. Those seem like good ones to have. Then she needs some other attributes that aren't quite talents, at least not necessarily, but they're still vital to her position. She needs charisma. She needs a natural ability to connect with and intrigue people. She needs some business acumen, some shrewdness, some sense of human psychology, and she needs to know who to associate with and how to associate with them. So let's break those down. Singer. I've already told you where I fall there. She's good. She's not even remotely close to being my cup of tea, as I prefer a singer with character over a technically proficient singer any day. But if I was judging just on merits of like singing, does she hit the notes she's supposed to hit in a rich and full and harmonious way? Yeah, sure, she does. Is she the best you've ever heard at it? No. I've listened to live a cappella performances from Beyonce, and while I'm no expert, I'd say she's well above average, but nothing near phenomenal. If you want to judge for yourself, I'd say compare her to Whitney Houston. Now, I'm not a Whitney Houston fan either, by the way. It's not my kind of music, as I said, but look at Beyonce trying to hold a note versus Whitney Houston doing it. Now, falling short of Whitney Houston's singing voice doesn't mean Beyonce is not a good singer, but it shows us that Beyonce is not a great singer, because greatness can compete with greatness, and Beyonce's singing simply cannot compete. So let's look at Beyonce as a songwriter, someone who can actually put a piece of pop music together for the masses to enjoy. Beyonce put out an album called Lemonade. I haven't counted, but I'm pretty sure it has more writers than the US Constitution. Now, there's nothing wrong with collaboration, but the fact that Beyonce relies so heavily on hiring multiple songwriters for every single song she releases shows us that Beyonce Knowles is probably not greatly talented as a songwriter. But what about as a musician? Can Beyonce actually play an instrument?
No.
As far as I can find in my research, she doesn't know how to play any instrument whatsoever. Maybe she can play something on an amateur level, but she doesn't play instruments at all in her capacity as a performer. Dancer. Okay, I watched a video called Beyonce, the Best Dance Breakdowns, and I watched a video called Janet Jackson, Best Dance Breakdowns. And remember all that stuff I said about Beyonce versus Whitney Houston in terms of voice? Well, the same applies to Beyonce versus Janet Jackson in terms of good dancing. Beyonce is good. She's a good dancer. She moves well, but she's not great. So here's what Beyonce has got in her arsenal as a performer. She's a good singer and a good dancer. And by the standards of most people, myself included, she's very pleasant. On the eyes. The eyes! Okay, calm down, TJ. I know there's a contrary son of a bitch in the comments already talking about, oh, Beyonce's an ugly, disgusting fucking cow. But listen, that guy fucks an anime pillow every night, so let's not take him too seriously. Well, he doesn't fuck the anime pillow every night, only the nights that he can manage to get his dick hard, which isn't often. So does being a good singer and a good dancer with a good body and a pretty face make you a viable performer? Absolutely, it does. Does it make you an amazing, perfect goddess, worthy of getting your pussy eaten out on national TV by the First Lady of the country?
No.
Does it make you worthy of Hugh Jackman, the fucking Wolverine, saying that merely being in your presence basically made his soul ejaculate? Does it make you worthy of being worshipped as a goddess and referred to as perfect by people speaking in hollowed tones of deep and sincere reverence? No, it doesn't. But there's more to being a performer than just the basic talents that you might expect a pop star to possess. There are attributes that go beyond talent that make someone a pop star. Remember, charisma, business acumen, a sense of human psychology, especially as it pertains to group psychology. And we'll get into all that in section 3. But let's change gears for a moment and focus not on Beyonce the performer, but on Beyonce the goddess, the phenomenon, the cultural force. Beyonce's perfection. Oh yeah. Let me tell you guys some facts. Beyonce, I don't know if you know this, is perfect. Beyonce is a goddess. Beyonce is a national treasure. All of these sentences have been uttered multiple times, not only by Beyonce fans, but by notable figures and Beyonce contemporaries. Just go type any one of those sentences into the search engine of your choice and see for yourself just how many people really, genuinely believe that. I think that viewing any human being in these terms is not only dangerous and disgusting, but it's also just a recipe for being flat out wrong. On a planet of hairless apes who were molded into their present state by the callous forces of evolution, none of us are perfect or divine. None of us are worthy of worship, except for me. And if any of us were worthy of worship, it would be me. And it would also be for a much greater feat than I can sing and I can dance and I can sing and dance and I can sing and dance. Worship me. Worship me. Every once in a while, the earth is given an Einstein or a Shakespeare, or if you're a sports fan, a Michael Jordan or a Da Vinci or an Eminem. What I'm saying is someone whose talents and abilities are so far beyond even the greatest of his or her peers that their greatness is challenged only by the bitterest of autistic contrarians and the most surly of spite-filled retards. There are tons of great writers throughout history, but most of them don't have their own section at the bookstore. And most of them didn't invent 1,700 words that are still in use today. Only Shakespeare did that, as far as I know. But even Shakespeare had his flaws. So did all the other people I listed. Even the people who are the greatest at what they do by an order of magnitude aren't automatically perfect. Hell, the greatest pop star to ever exist by almost any metric you could conceive of was Michael Jackson. And no one would ever make the argument that he was perfect.
Do you still think that it's acceptable to share your bed with children?
Of course.
But his status as the greatest pop star in history is not seriously questioned by anyone. He was a great singer, maybe a good singer, but a great dancer. He wrote a ton of his own material, lyrics and music. He couldn't play an instrument at a high enough level of proficiency to play it on stage, but he was able to play the keyboard, the synthesizer, the guitar, and drums. So from that alone, Beyonce is not perfect. A perfect person would be the absolute and unquestionable best at something. And Beyonce isn't the best at anything, as far as I can tell. Now, is she a perfect mother and a nice person? How the fuck should I know? I can tell you this, though. I know plenty of really good parents who are really nice people, and that doesn't get you the accolades of stars of stage and screen and from influential politicians and pundits and media personalities. Or just everyday losers.
Loser! Let's go, Ace.
So, if Beyonce isn't talented enough to have earned her acclaim, and she's not singularly virtuous enough to have earned her acclaim, then whence cometh this bitch's damn near universal acclaim? Well, that's when we get into the final section. Beyonce's humility. Beyonce's humility is a lot like God's love, in that neither of them exist, and they're both pretty much ludicrous notions on several levels when you really think about it. Beyonce's humility as a phrase should qualify as a fucking oxymoron. First of all, most of the people telling us all about Beyonce's humility and how down to earth she is are other big stars. How the fuck would a star gauge humility? Beyonce is down to earth because she treated Hugh Jackman nice? What? Beyonce is a pop star, and pop stars are all about image. And Beyonce knows that her humility is a selling point. Her perfection is a selling point. These things don't have to actually exist because she's just good enough to sell the illusion that they do. This idea of Beyonce as such a nice person who is so amazingly talented and such an icon and such a goddess, but she's so humble in spite of it all. That image didn't just emerge naturally and organically from Beyonce being herself. That image has been carefully crafted and controlled and cultivated. The person who's really telling you all of these things about Beyonce, pull off the mask, Scoob. It's Beyonce. Beyonce understands that to have a reputation for being nice and humble, you just have to project that in your dealings with everybody. Because even the lowliest dirtbag who has an "I met Beyonce and she was a bitch" story would tarnish her brand. The idea that Beyonce is a goddess comes from her literally dressing up like a goddess. The idea of Beyonce as a queen comes from her literally dressing up like a queen. Beyonce is playing a wonderful little game with the public. She's selling them two very different faces. On one hand, she's more than thrilled to plant notions of her own regality and divinity in people's heads. On the other hand, she's also willing to serve us a steaming helping of faux humility as well. Beyonce herself directed an HBO special about her favorite subject, Beyonce, Life is But a Dream. One of the hallmark staples of humility, by the way, is directing a documentary about yourself for HBO. The special promised viewers a look inside the personal life of Beyonce. Instead, it's utterly manufactured and so carefully calculated that it might as well have been produced by Texas Instruments.
I don't get it.
If Beyonce is great at anything, she's a great self-promoter and marketer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Entertainers have been marketing themselves in grandiose ways for a long time. It's part of showmanship. Mata Hari got popular in France as an exotic dancer, claiming she was a princess of Hindu birth who'd been trained in sacred Indian dances from the time she was a small child. And she became a sensation throughout France, even though she was a pretty average dancer. And in reality, she was Dutch in origin, and her father was not a king, but the owner of a hat shop. But no one in 1905 France wanted to buy a ticket to go see Margaretha Zell, the average dancer from Leeuwarden, but they were happy to shell out money to see Mata Hari, the Indian princess whose exotic sacred dances came from a land that was still shrouded in mystery. Deception is part of performance. A good performer knows that talent is great, but it's how talent is presented and marketed that's even more important. I have no doubt in my mind that there are women who can sing and dance every bit as well as Beyonce, maybe even better, who are playing small clubs right now and will never get past that. Why? Because even if they can sing and dance as well as Beyonce, and even if they're as pretty as Beyonce, they just don't know how to market themselves like Beyonce. They just don't know how to turn their entire life into a performance the way that Beyonce has. They think that the act stops when they walk off the stage, or they just don't know what the right act is for them. But Beyonce, she knows it. She knows it better than she knows anything else in this world. She has cultivated an air of divinity and regality and perfection that intrigues people, yet she knows that people would get tired of a higher-than-thou royalty figure, so she has the charisma and the knowledge of human psychology to make people like her by making it seem like she's humble about it, when in fact her every action is designed to make her seem greater than she actually is, including her feigned humility. And she has the business acumen, the shrewdness to know how to manipulate people, which is really the job of a good entertainer. She knows how to control her image. She knows how to seem just deep enough to be praised as an artist, but without being off-putting in her pretentiousness to the common schlub. She knows how to seem just regal and divine enough to compel people to pay attention to her carefully maintained splendor, and she knows how to temper that image with an air of humility and earthiness that creates in people's mind this very flattering paradox of, oh, she's so great, and yet so humble. That's exactly how she wants people to feel about her, and she has enough talent to pull off the hustle effectively. Beyoncé's foremost skill is at creating an image that's far greater than her actual talents. But that skill does, in and of itself, earn her some admiration from me. She's an amazing self-promoter with an enviable ability to read and meet the needs of her audience, making her an excellent showman, but in terms of raw ability, a somewhat middle-of-the-road performer. If you take Michael Jackson from 1982 and you put him in just jeans and a t-shirt and put him in a barren room with no decorations and just tell him, all right, Michael, sing and dance, his unbelievable talent is going to blow you away instantly. He was a great showman and he knew how to present himself at that time. But even when you strip the showmanship away, the raw talent alone was mind-blowing. You do the same experiment with Beyonce and she's going to be impressive. But is she going to explode at you as a world-class superstar? I don't think so. I think you're just going to be thinking, wow, this chick's pretty hot. Sings good, too. I've looked at a lot of performances by Beyonce and other pop stars, both past and present, to really get a solid idea of where Beyonce fits in. And I think she's roughly in the middle of the pack in terms of her raw talents, and she's near the top when it comes to her marketing and showmanship. But the thing about her marketing is that once you realize it's marketing, and the spell is broken, she's probably still gonna be somewhat enjoyable if you like that kind of music, but I simply don't. I find all pop music to be superficial. I don't mind showmanship or crafting an image to sell yourself as a performer, but I like it when it's done in a more cerebral way that takes risks and has a certain air of danger to it. Beyonce is pretty good at playing the role of a goddess, but I don't want a goddess. I don't feel the need that a lot of people apparently do to have some perfect human being that I just hold up as the pinnacle of virtue and greatness. I prefer to devote my attention to a performer who uses the lies inherent in performance to tell the truths about the world that maybe can't be explained easily outside the confines of art. I'd rather listen to music that feels dangerous than music that feels like it's trying to please me. But if I was looking for a queen or a goddess to worship, I might let myself get suckered into the Beyonce hype. If it's what you enjoy, then don't let me ruin your fun, but to me, Beyonce is pap. Mindless, insipid, pseudo-profound, humble bragging while dressed up as a goddess or a queen is bullshit. Nothing more, nothing less, just bullshit. I'm TJ Kirk, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you immensely for watching. I promise I'll never pretend for an instant to be humble, because why bother when I'm clearly the greatest? Peace the fuck out.